From the far reaches of space to the darkest places on Earth, join us as we explore the haunted, the cryptid, the creepy, and more. Exposing Reality Radio presents the Spectral Wolfpack Show, your paranormal nightmare, with your host, Alexander Bobolinsky.
What's up, Wolfpack? We got a awesome show tonight for you guys. So first off, some news. I don't know if everyone heard, but Madhouse will be on VidiSpace, which is Nick Groff and Elizabeth Saint's streaming platform, as well as Amazon and possibly a few other streaming platforms. And that's Madhouse, a paranormal documentary that I'm working on with JP and Steve and Keith. So I'm really excited for that project. I've got some other ones in the works as well. Things will be coming out about that soon. I did put up a sneak peek for any of the patrons, so you can definitely check that out if you'd like to. So I hope everyone's having a great Wednesday. I'm going to bring in our guest very soon. I wanted to read a little bit out of his bio first. For 18 years, Leon Wilkes has studied the paranormal and demonology. At an early age, he found that his love for the paranormal would only heighten as he watched the show Unsolved Mysteries. This was the starting point for his career in the paranormal, preternatural studies and investigations. When he turned the age of 21, he started researching and studying the paranormal field, in which it culminated to him co-founding a paranormal team out of Georgia. Today, Leon is only one being tutored by David Considine, religious demonologist. During his later years with the team that he co-founded, he was getting a calling from God to do more in this field than just investigations. In fact, this calling was so strong that he could not ignore it, and he finally started to study the field of demonology and founded a ministry that helps people who are under demonic attack called Where Angels Dare Ministries. Now give me one sec here and I will bring him right in. Leon, what's up, man?
Hey, how you doing, buddy?
Good. I'm really excited to hear what all you've got to say tonight. I really enjoyed meeting you, too, at the Abnormal Alabama conference.
Same here, buddy. Going through the conferences, you have a chance to meet different people and meet people from different walks of life, And I met a lot of good people there, including yourself, buddy. I was really happy that I got to meet you.
Yeah, it was really nice talking. I think, me, you, and you and Joe had some really good conversations, and I'm really glad that we got to meet at that. It was a really good event.
Yes, it was.
So, aside from Unsolved Mysteries and things like that, getting you into the paranormal, did you have many paranormal experiences growing up?
You know what? I am one of those strange people that that didn't have a lot of those strange things that happened to me when I was a kid. A lot of people in the paranormal field has a scenario or two that happens to them when they were a kid that kind of spawned their interest into the paranormal, and that was never my case at all. I was born and raised in church, and I was always taught that all ghosts are demons, and it kind of scared me away a little bit from actually going into the paranormal field. However, even the paranormal field is extremely interesting,
mm-hmm.
and when I first started watching Unsolved Mysteries back when I was just a little kid, I always found it fascinating. So that is what ultimately fueled my interest into the paranormal.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I had similar things. I had a few experiences from when I was a kid, but those shows definitely just made it more and more of an obsession, I guess, just wanting to watch everything that came out and learn as much as I could.
Yeah, and Robert Stack, his voice today just still terrifies me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I need to go back through and watch those again, like nowadays, because I haven't seen them in years. But
yes, I think Netflix is fixing to bring back the series now.
Ooh, nice. I will definitely have to check that out. Could you tell us a little bit about the difference between just a demonologist and a religious demonologist?
Well, when you get the term like demonologist, let's say, for instance, someone is just calling themselves a demonologist. In that aspect, you don't know what you're going to be getting. Number one, you could be getting someone who studies just the demonic aspect of things, or number two, you might get someone who studies it and from the magical point of view, magic with a K, from the occult down to even the Satanists would be considered a demonologist. So you don't know what you're getting. So that's why I am very, very specific, about demonologist and religious demonologist. A religious demonologist is that person that comes in and this person has to be theologically based in what he is doing. This person has to be under the guidance of another religious demonologist, or has to be under the guidance of their church. So when you're dealing with the demonic aspect, you have to have some sort of spiritual covering, and a religious demonologist has that because this person is, number one, either trained by another religious demonologist or trained by an ordained exorcist, and then has the backing of their church, or may I say they have to be under the Episcopal guideship of the bishop.
Wow, yeah, that's all. So you trained under David. His name's David Considine, right?
Yes. I trained under Dave Considine and is still training under Dave Considine. Dave Considine, I tell you, he took me under his wing, and I'm the only one that he has ever trained. When I started doing this field, I first started out as just a regular paranormal investigator. We would go in and with the whole craze of ghost hunters when they first came out, that kind of fueled everything. Mm-hmm. And then we were going into these locations and seeking proof, hard solidified proof. We were going there to debunk almost everything, but the things that we can't debunk, it has to be legit. So we went into a residential case, and we were able to prove without a shadow of a doubt that there was something negative there. And on the way home, all the team was all excited that we got this hard proof, but something deep down inside of me was making me feel horrible. Mm-hmm. It's like this nagging feeling that I didn't do, or we didn't do everything that we could do. Yeah. And that is what led me to study the field of demonology. And ultimately it got me associated with Dave Considine. Dave Considine is one of only two people that was ever formally trained by Ed Warren. So, to be under his tutelage, to be under his authority, has been really beneficial. There's been several cases where in the beginning, I would call him every day, him and Barbie, I would call them every day, running things by them, making sure I'm handling things right, and still to this day, if I get a case and if I want to know if I'm handling right, I give them a call, kind of run down the whole scenario, and they will say if I'm handling it right or if I need to look in a different aspect. So yes, Dave has been a very big help. He's a God-fearing man, and I thank God every day for my friendship with Dave.
Wow, I think that's awesome, man. And it's really cool that he studied under Ed Warren, and that. So you're literally the only person that he's mentoring.
Yes. I'm the only person that he has ever trained for demonology. Yes.
Do you know what made him decide that you were the one?
You know what? I'm not really sure. I think because we developed this bond, and it's a bond. It's more of like a brothership. Every time I talk to him, and every time he talks to me, to us, it's like talking to family. It's like talking to my brother, and vice versa. He's even said that when he talks to me, it's like talking to his brother. And when you gain or when you develop that big bond, you have a sense of trust. And I believe that may be it. That he saw that he could pass down the knowledge to me, and I could effectively, and him trusting me, with this knowledge, and that I could effectively do the work.
Wow, that's powerful stuff. Very, very cool. I got a question here from Joe. He wants to know, most paranormal investigators believe that demonic hands are extremely rare. Do you, Leon, believe it's not quite as rare as most paranormal investigators believe? I think he means demonic haunts are extremely rare.
Yes.
And he said he personally believes it is rare, but not as rare.
I have to agree with him, but also I myself, with me and my team, I can't gauge that, and the reason why is because it'll be unfair. That's all we handle is demonic cases. Mm-hmm. So that's all we see. Now when you're dealing with other paranormal investigators, they most of them deal with just regular Casper the Friendly Ghost type stuff. But for us, all we see and all we deal with is the demonic aspect, the demonic cases, the cases that no one wants to handle. So if I try to answer that, that would be my answer to that, because I honestly could not gauge that aspect properly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I understand. I wanted to ask a little bit more about if you could tell us a little bit more about Where Angels Dare Ministries, about starting that and where that's taken you.
You know what? Where Angels Dare Ministries, that started with the urging and the hunger to actually start a ministry to help people, and that was so I can make connections throughout the United States and be able to send these cases to people that can properly help these people. Now that started out good. That started out, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere in like 2010, and that was right around the time I first met Dave. No, I take it back. That was years after I met Dave, but I started that, and it went really good, and then how with some things or some businesses or some ministries, you start it, and it starts out really good, and then it's time for God to close that door and open up another door. So that has the door to that has closed, but that's because God was wanting me to concentrate on more of the cases that was coming in and us traveling to them versus we sending cases to other people.
Mm-hmm. So you've been doing a lot of, like, actually traveling out of state lately, to traveling and doing these cases.
Yes. I know it's very rarely that I get a local case. If I get a case in Georgia, I have to travel about 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah.
And it's taxing, but then again, when you see the work done, when you see people get the proper help, it's really fulfilling. I know I got 2 cases. Well, I got 3 cases that I'm working on now. One here that is local. It looks like it might have to end up going to exorcism. Then I have one in Alabama that I was just called on. The child is in desperate need. So I'm going to be willing to go up there and help that family. And then there's one, I don't know how much I can say about this one. Let's just say Miranda Young called me, and we'll be working with her in the near future.
Awesome. What part of Alabama generally, like, is that case in?
I forget what they said. It's not Selma, but I think it's close to Selma. Does that make sense?
Yeah. That's about, I think it's about 2 or 3 hours south of me, closer to the beach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So just as soon as they give me good hard dates, that's when we'll be going. So as you can see, I have 3 cases. Probably after that, I'm going to probably cut it off, kind of go on a sabbatical until we get moved up to Albuquerque. Because unfortunately, me being in the military, I officially got PCS orders. So now our new home is going to be in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Wow. Yeah, in UFO territory, huh?
Yes, sir. I'm going to be looking into some of that as well. I find UFO phenomena fascinating.
Yeah. So you're still actively in the Air Force?
Yes. I've been in the Air Force. This September will be 16 years. So I've got about a good 4.5 years before I can retire.
Wow. Well, thank you for your service, man.
Thank you, buddy.
Jen Rogue, I'm not sure if you can answer any of this, but she wanted to know any Air Force secrets.
I wish I knew them. If I probably don't have the right class, the right secret clearing for that. So if there's any Air Force secrets, I do not know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's, like, hard for many of the people in them to know any of these secrets, if there are, if they are true.
Yeah. Now, there's all kind of rumors. Like when you study the crash at Roswell.
Mm-hmm.
The rumor and theory is that they housed the bodies of the so-called aliens there at Kirtland Air Force Base, and that's actually where I'm going to be stationed at. And then from there, they moved everything to Wright Pat there in Ohio. So there's a lot of rumor. Don't know if it's a lot of fact, but when I get there, I'll be doing a good bit of investigating.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I can't wait to see if you find anything in that area, because I loved it out there. Like I don't know, I love living in Alabama, but I love visiting out in the desert and everything. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Cool place.
I know right now, we don't know how to take it yet. It's going to be completely different. And and I think right now they're actually getting about 6 inches of snow a day. So that's going to be neat for us, too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we haven't even gotten it once here yet. I don't know about you in Georgia, but, like, we haven't had any.
Yeah, we very rarely get some here.
Wow. So I wanted to ask, and we had talked about it a little bit at the Abnormal Alabama, and you just mentioned, too, taking a little sabbatical between moving, but when you're doing a lot of this work with religious demonology, are there times where you have to take a break, and times where it gets hard for you?
Yes. When you do the work, when you do the dark stuff, when you're handling the dark cases, if you keep doing it and keep doing it over and over and over again, it takes a toll on you. Each case that you do, it kind of takes a little piece from you. So I learned early on, by doing it the wrong way, that I must take a sabbatical. I like to take about 2 sabbaticals a year. These sabbaticals will last about a month apiece. Because if I don't, I will find myself getting into a dark place. The more you're in the dark cases, the darker and darker you turn. So you have to be very, very careful. With me and my faith, I try to go to confession regularly. That helps keeps me centered. When I go to these cases, when I get done with the case, I schedule confession. Get it all out. So it is very important to go on sabbatical. Even with everything that you do in life, I don't care if you have just a hobby. Sometimes it's good to take a sabbatical from that too. But for me, when I take a sabbatical, I can then refocus on one of the most important things in my life, or 2 of the most important things in my life. That's my walk with God, and then that's my family. So by taking sabbatical, it helps keep me centered.
For sure. Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, even, something as simple as like playing video games. I might start playing too many video games and need a break and recharge, and get back to myself. And I bet when you're dealing with those dark cases all the time, like, man, I can just imagine, just from some of the things that have happened to me, and when your mind starts turning to those dark places, or you start having those bad thoughts and things like that.
Yeah. And then these cases also takes a toll on your family too.
Yeah.
I have I wised up when I was early on doing these cases, and I taught my family, even my kids, a little bit of spiritual warfare. Not a lot. I didn't go into very much detail, but I taught them how to protect themselves.
Yeah.
So they know what to do. They know what the feeling of it is. Just as soon as you start feeling a little weird or a little wonky, go ahead and start saying prayers. I know several cases. It has tried to affect me by affecting my family. These things think that if they cause my family to suffer, then I won't come and help the client. Well, I'm the most stubborn and hard-headed person that you've ever met. I remember several cases where right before I leave, everybody in my family my wife and all my kids get sick, right?
Yeah.
It thinks that I am going to stay and take care of them and not go to the case, right? Nope, wrong. I still went through the cases, and it's funny how an hour after I left to go to the case, everybody in my family is better now.
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird, but I have that sense whenever I know it is something demonic trying to interfere. I ignore it and I keep pressing on.
Wow. Yeah, that's very interesting. What are some other things like that have happened, like before cases that you've noticed that you thought might have been demonic interference or some kind of?
Well, I remember there was this one case. It was before I even got a case request. My oldest child, she was upstairs, and all of a sudden I hear something fall on the ground, and it sounded really heavy. Well, I go upstairs and I see my little girl on the ground. I said, "Honey, what's wrong?" She's like, "Something pushed me out of my chair." I kind of tilted my head to the side and said, "What do you mean?" And I had her tell me in detail everything that happened. And she was doing her homework, and all of a sudden her chair just twisted around like by itself. And she said, "Daddy, I felt hands on my chest as it was pushing me off or out of the chair." And I know what it was trying to do. It was trying to ruffle my feathers, And what I did, I simply taught my little girl then what to say and what to do. And I told her, use a little bit of righteous anger. Get mad at the sucker, and tell it to leave in the name of Jesus Christ. And I taught her how to do that. And she's felt better like ever since. I know for me, sometimes I have a bout with migraine. And if it's a really bad demonic case, right before I leave, I will start getting really debilitating migraines. And sometimes those migraines are the type that takes your vision away. And but I'll push through it. I will go to the case, and just as soon as I get on site, that headache has been gone away. So So then I kind of feel like it kind of gave up and it's like, okay, let's try something else.
Yeah. That leads into my next question. Joe wanted to know a little bit more about, hold on, where did he ask? What is your pre-prep like before going to a potential demonic case?
I like to get into a state of grace. That for me, in my state, is going to confession and taking of the Holy Eucharist. Now, also, 3 days before the case, I'll start fasting, and then I'll go into more deep prayer, more spiritual warfare prayers than I do on a regular basis. So that's what I like to do.
Wow, that's I bet it gets intense, man, on these cases.
Yeah.
I wanted to know a little bit, and you explained this during your speech, but for everyone in the chat, maybe go into a little bit into the early signs of demonic presence, and onward into the possession stage.
Okay. When you're dealing with the stages of a demonic haunting, you're dealing with infestation, oppression, obsession, and then possession. Many people leave out the obsession stage, but that is truly one of the 4 stages. Infestation, that's when you start getting just the minor things. It will resemble a lot of just a regular haunting cases. You'll have things going missing. You will have cabinets opening and closing. That simple stuff, and then from there it'll pinpoint one person and then go after that person because they're the weakest, or maybe something has happened in their life that they've done or something that's been done to them, or something that happened within their family generation timeline. You know, and then that's called an oppression. And oppression is when now, instead of the target is the home, now the target is one person. And with that phase, you can get scratches. You can get really severe nightmares, night terrors. But normally these things will first start trying to take your sleep away. So you start waking up at random hours at the night. But some of them, most of them, will be waking up at around the 3 o'clock time frame. You will get mood changes. Some people might think that that's a psychological thing, but sometimes these things will hide behind psychology. So that's some things that you can look for, but then it can escalate to what we call an obsession. Now, the obsession can go two ways. The obsession can be either now this entity is more obsessed with the person and is going after the person more and more and more. It is escalated to a very aggressive stage. Or it could be the flip side of things. Now, this person who is being afflicted is now obsessed about the entity. And then once you see it go to the obsession stage, you know very, very quickly the possession stage is fixing to start. Because within the obsession stage, that's where it's starting to break through the mind. And their ultimate goal is to give the person its mind. So once that happens, the possession starts. And then you have superhuman strength, you have foreknowledge, you have these people doing these things that they wouldn't normally do. For instance, if someone starts speaking Latin out of nowhere, and you know this person does not have the background to know Latin, or let's say I'm a redneck, you know, I'm from the backwoods of Georgia. Now, if I start speaking some Spanish stuff, you know I might be possessed. Why? Because I don't know Spanish. Mm-hmm. So that's the things to look for, and it is a systematic way of these demonic entities giving that person its mind and its will.
Wow, it's wild stuff, and you know, from things I've experienced and seen, like, definitely can get very real. Olwen wanted to know, Leon, have you had a spirit enter your body before?
No, I have not, because number one, I don't allow that. And number two, I am very, very spiritually protected. That wouldn't happen. No, sir.
Well, that's great. I mean, I'm glad that you take those precautions and everything, because I think, you know, a lot of people, you know, including myself, sometimes I get lazy on protecting myself when doing paranormal work. And
yeah. And you know what? And do know that I'm not perfect. You know, sometimes I may lack on some stuff, but I will quickly recognize what I'm lacking on. Spiritually, I will feel like I'm in a funk, you know, and then that's when I realize, oh crap, I've not been doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and then that's when I step it up a notch.
Yeah. Very, very nice. I mean, I've had similar moments where I had to definitely, like, I was like, I got to step it up, and followed through and felt much better after I did. Summer said her sister's had something at the house she just purchased that's affecting her animals and making her daughter feel sick, and her niece was having the night terrors. Her sister wakes up every morning around 4 a.m. to hear something frantically going on through the drawers downstairs. Her daughter has seen shadow figures. What do you think about that? Yeah. Does that sound
when you look at stuff like that and look at cases, I have to take it in a totality type of frame, and what I mean by that is in order to gauge a case, to accurately diagnose something, I first would have to interview the person and the people, on site, so I can kind of get the feel of things, and then from there, if I see that a investigation is warranted, then we'll do an investigation. Now, not all cases need to be investigated. When we're dealing with the demonic aspect, because sometimes if you go and investigate a case that doesn't warrant an investigation, then you will leave these people in a worse state than what you originally saw them in. But in that case, where you just told me about things going on, it could be very well that it might not be demonic. It could be that it might be just a regular spirit. So in order to accurately diagnose what's really going on, I will have to talk to them and learn a whole lot more about them.
Yeah, definitely important. Yeah, I like, when doing any residential cases, like a really good on-site interview is very important. I agree with that.
Yeah. See, I'm a trained military police officer, so I know how to interview people. I wouldn't say interrogate. We don't like to use that terminology, but whenever I talk to people, whenever I interview them about their cases, I know how to read body language. I know when people are not telling me the whole truth. I know when people are lying to me. I know how to say things or ask it in a certain way to where I can get the truthful response. So sometimes I go to cases, and well, let's say 100% of the time when I first go to a case, I like to chit chat with the people. That's my way of building a rapport. If I just come in and just start asking questions, I'm not going to get nothing out of the people. So I have to establish a rapport. You let me gain my trust. So now we can ease into the aspect of what I need to know. But sometimes I can do that. They don't even know I am actually doing that, and that's when I can get most of my information.
Yeah, definitely a good tactic. I've used the same thing pretty much, just having small talk, and then they'll start telling you more and more, just making them feel comfortable.
And then once they start rambling on, I just let them ramble. That's when I find out most of my information.
Yeah, definitely. Joe wanted to know where he can get the book you have, The Manual for Minor Exorcisms. He hears it's rare.
Yes, it's I looked up when I got that book. It was published in 2012, and I found it on Amazon at the time. It is put together by a bishop out of Sydney, Australia. His name is Julian Porteous. He's the auxiliary bishop of Sydney back in 2010. Well, they published this in 2012. They only published it just with one printing, and I paid $20 for it. But it has been an invaluable resource, and they don't make this book anymore. So you can go onto Amazon and Google Manual for Minor Exorcisms and see that the book is now going for about $900 to $1,200 a pop.
Wow. Yeah, I remember I looked at it, or was looking for it, I think last year, just because it looks like an awesome little book. And isn't it leather bound?
Yes, it is. Yes, it's very thin, but it is leather bound. And I know the front of it says for the use of priests, but there is several prayers in here that a lady can do. Like, for instance, if I'm doing a deliverance session over an individual, sometimes I like to pull out the St. Basil prayer. It's not you going direct with the entity, but through that prayer, you're asking God to intercede. So that's very, very important between a deliverance and a exorcism. Laity can do a deliverance. However, you got to be properly trained. Mm-hmm. But a deliverance is basically you asking God to intercede on the behalf of the person for their deliverance. And exorcism is a totally different thing. And exorcism is an ordained priest who is got the faculties of the exorcist, and that person goes direct, or that priest goes direct with the entity in the authority of the church.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah. But yeah, this book is very, very valuable. Yes.
Yeah, that's a great piece for your collection. So I wanted to know if you can tell us, like when you get a case, you've done the interview. What does it look like when you get there to do a deliverance? Like, what kind of steps would you take?
I have a very unique process when I do my deliverance. First, when I get there, I like to sit the person down after I've done built a rapport, and I go over their whole life story. And I tell them that I want to hear the bad stuff. I don't want to hear the good stuff. And we go back as far as her grandparents on her mother's side and her father's side. Why? Because these things can come through the generational timeline. And we need to know what the grandparents was involved in, if there was any abuse in the family. We want to know all this stuff. Was there any addictions? All of it. Witchcraft, you name it, we want to know it. And then we go to their mother and father, and we want to know the same stuff. And then I want to know the same stuff about their siblings, and then them, and then we kind of work it up to where they're at now. Kind of like a timeline. And then from there, this is one of my favorite stages of the deliverance process. I like to go into the forgiveness part of this. This forgiveness is a very, very powerful thing. I want these people, before I even take the case, I ask them, are you willing to forgive people that have done bad to you? And if they say yes, then we know that this is going to work. And, sometimes when we verbally say something, it gets it out, gets it off your chest, Same thing with forgiveness. So I will ask them, who do you want to forgive? Say, I forgive this person for doing this to me. And I have seen within this process where at first these people are old, they're spiritually, physically beat up because of the oppression. I have seen, just right before my eyes, wrinkles just vanish. I have seen their demeanor start to change just because of this forgiveness aspect of this whole process. But after we get finished with that part, I tell them, this is very, very crucial. Do you want to forgive yourself for anything? That's when we get the powerful changes. Why? Because we all done stuff. We have all done stuff that we feel bad about. And once we start forgiving ourselves and verbally get it out and get it off your chest, we start feeling better. That's why, for my sake, we do the rite of reconciliation, or AKA confession. You verbally get it out. You get it off your chest. You feel a whole lot better. This is the same concept. And then after they finish that part, I asked them a really, really strange question. I asked them, "Is there anything you want to forgive God for?" Because sometimes these people hold grudges against God. You know, God did this and God allowed this. You know, and that's a really big process too. And then after the forgiveness aspect of it, we then move into breaking the right that these entities have to these people. Let's say, for instance, they was part of any occult practices. We go down through the gamut. We, in the name of Jesus Christ and by His shed blood, we break all the rights that they have to each person through those aspects. And then from there, we will go to breaking soul ties. We'll start breaking soul ties. And then one thing that I like to do is I bind the strong man in Jesus' name. When you do that, I have seen where even the strongest men that I've ever seen in my life cannot get up to foot my tail. They are like bounded by the strongest cords that they can't move. You know, they have tried and they can't. So, in spiritually binding the strong man will actually make them sit in their seat and not get up to whip your tail. And then from there, we will go with the renunciation. Whenever I sit there and I listen to the whole story, I'm having a list like that I'm writing down of every avenue that something could have came in through. Let's say adultery. Let's say drug abuse. You know, you name it. And I then have the person to say after me, I bind and renounce this and that. You know, like adultery and addiction. I have them to start verbally saying that, and then after that, we go into the deliverance part. And sometimes the actual deliverance, you know, getting this thing separated from the person can take an hour, can take 2 hours, can take 30 minutes. I've had one to where it took 12 hours. So as you can see, that there is a very lengthy process, and that takes all day. I like to start doing this during the daytime because I'm not going to do all of this during the nighttime. I'm not going to do it in its territory. I want to do it on the good side of things, and that's in the light. So, but then after that, we will do a liberation like of the home and the property, and then I'll start teaching them about how they can keep it away, because these things will try to come back in the little slightest way. And I'll teach them what to look for. You know, if you're feeling really uneasy, go ahead and kick them out in the name of Jesus. Don't let it sit there and fester. You know, it is like a fire, okay? You can put a fire out, and then that don't mean that you took care of all the smoldering embers, right? Mm-hmm. So if you extinguish the embers, then the whole fire's going to go out. Now, if you let the embers just stay and you don't address the embers are going to spark back up to a full-fledged fire again. Same concept. So if you take care of the small things, it won't flare back up into a more powerful fire.
Wow. That's definitely an intense process, and I can see why it works, honestly.
Yeah. We hit every avenue of approach. We don't leave any stone unturned.
I really like the the thing you do about going through the forgiveness thing, because I could see how that could be a very powerful tactic and really be a great stepping stone to making.
Yeah. The forgiveness part is the initial phase of breaking the rights that these things have to the person. These beings, these demonic entities, they work by invitation, and once they get that invitation, it's called a legal right. So now they have a legal right to be there. So the forgiveness aspect is the first part of breaking that.
Wow. So we've got lots of questions in the chat. We've got, about 10 minutes left. It's okay if we go over too, but I just wanted to, we'll try to get through some of these.
Okay.
Joe had brought up 7, which was something that we keep hearing this on our devices and our investigations. It'll come through on our ghost boxes or EVPs, and it'll say something about 7. Is there any kind of connection to, I know that 7 is one of the most used numbers in the Bible and things like that. Is there any connection to demonology with the number 7?
From my point of view and from what I have dealt with, I haven't seen 7 used in a demonic case yet. But these demonic beings like to mimic biblical things. So, for instance, a lot of the times these demonic beings will use biblical names or biblical references. When you look at the number 7, theologically, it is the reference to completion. God created the world in 7 days, but on the 7th day He rested. So it theologically 7 is the reference to completion. So if this is a demonic case, I don't know how it will be using the reference of 7, but maybe it's using the reference of 7, saying there's 7 entities, or maybe it's saying that we have completed what we set out to do.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, thanks for that info. That definitely helps out. Jen wanted to know about God and the divine life force.
God and the divine life force.
Yeah.
When we look at God, God is divine. In different religions, they call God different things. In the Islamic religion, he's called Allah. But all religions teach some kind of divine life force. I believe at a certain extent we are all connected to the divine life force, because when you look at the biblical story of creation, we are made in the image and likeness of God. So we have to, at some point, be a part of that divine life force. Now, I believe that divine life force, we were fully engaged with it with Adam and Eve. They were fully engaged with it, and then they did whatever God told them not to do. And then now they're separated from that divine life force. So throughout the Old Testament, you see where the Israelites, they would be having the priest go in once a year and making a blood sacrifice. But that wasn't to eliminate their sins or to eliminate their iniquities. That was to just cover it up, because the final sacrifice has not been made yet. And then all of a sudden, here comes Jesus Christ, the prophesied Messiah, and in the Christian faith, He died for our sins, and therefore now He is our high priest. So now, with that being said, when we enter into a life of Christ, a life with Christ, I fully feel that now we are part again, in some way, shape, form, or fashion, of that divine lifehood. And when you look at everything, for me, for my faith, we really hold in high regards Holy Communion, taking of the Eucharist, because we feel that there is enough evidence to prove that whenever the priest consecrates the bread and wine, it becomes the body and blood of Jesus Christ. So whenever you partake in that, you are actually partaking in one of the most holiest and reverent things that you can do, and being part of that divine life force, just for that few minutes, Now, will we ever be fully engulfed in that divine life force? I believe yes, but not right now. Whenever we die, we got to go through a purification process, and then from there we will have that beautiful beatific preview, But after everything is said and done, I believe we will become part of that divine life force again.
Awesome answer. Thanks for answering all these questions.
Oh yeah, no problem.
We'll do 2 more questions here, and then we'll wrap it up.
Okay.
Olwen wanted to know, are children affected more than adults in demonic cases?
Yes. Well, sometimes yes, and sometimes no. It just all depends.
Mm-hmm.
It all depends. It's really hard to say, because a lot of my cases, I'm dealing with adults. But let's take kids, for example. I believe that they're on a higher level of thinking than we are. Their brains are wired a different way until they reach a different age, and then it kind of simmers down a little bit. That's why kids can see things that we can't.
Yeah.
So I believe that yes, spiritually, they can be affected easier than us adults. I believe that kids see things every day that we can't see. That's why sometimes I just sit back and just watch my little 4 and 3-year-olds and just watch them interact. And sometimes they just stop and just stare off, and it looks like they're looking in amazement, and their face has that sense of wonder to it. So do I believe that kids can be affected easier? Yes. I've had many cases where the kid was oppressed due to the fact that he or she had an imaginary friend. These demons can come in the guise of an imaginary friend, gain the trust of that little kid, and then just as soon as that happens, that's the invitation for it to come and wreak havoc within the family.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, final question. Joe wanted to know if you've heard of any connection between phantom raindrops landing on somebody and occult activity. He had heard that, and let's see, what does it mean, and what should somebody do about it?
Phantom raindrops and occult activity. This is something that I hadn't really dealt with a lot, but when you look at the occult, when you look at phantom raindrops, I believe that there can be a somewhat of a connection. When you look at the occult, you're looking at people that cast spells. You're looking at all this stuff, And now that I think about it, I have had 1 or 2 cases. This brings it back to my memory now. That they had curses put on them. And when it started, they said it. All of a sudden, it felt like phantom raindrops. That they would feel this water land on their body, and they would touch where it would land, and there's no water.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, now that you mentioned that, it brings to my recollection, 2 cases like that I had, to where the curse started out feeling like Phantom Raindrops.
Wow. Very interesting
I'm like,
stuff.
does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, all this is, it's a lot for an hour. I'm glad that we went over all this stuff. Like, I know that everyone in the chat is like, has learned so much, and it's been very interesting. Before we go, if you would, tell everyone, like, do you have any future events coming up or anything like that you'd like to talk about or promote, and then also, how they can find your work. I put the link to your website in the description. But.
Okay, well, I know right now I'm working on 3 cases, and that's going to be it for me until we move to New Mexico. Unfortunately, we have to move to New Mexico, to Albuquerque, New Mexico, because of my job. But however, I'm already making connections out there, and I'm already getting word that they have cases for me. I'm like, man, okay. If you need me, you can contact me at southeast-paranormal-society@hotmail.com. When I move, I am going to leave the site up and running. There's an individual that I've been training, and she's going to continue to work here. So, I have, like I said earlier, I will be working with Miranda Young from Ghost Biker Explorations here in a few weeks, and I believe that's all I can say about that at the moment. But right now I'm just entering into a part of my life to where when I finish these 3 cases, I'm going to take a sabbatical, like we talked about earlier, and so I can properly get moved in, settled, and then probably gradually take up cases.
Awesome. Well, Summer, who was talking about her sister's house earlier, she actually lives in Albuquerque. Her home's about 20 minutes outside, so maybe you could talk more to them if they're still experiencing things.
Yeah. And you know what? I'll be living there on base there at Kirtland Air Force Base. So I'm just a hop and skip away then.
Wow. Well, that's awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man, we learned so much. If you got it in you, I think only one person didn't have it in. They were feeling sick, but we do a wolf howl. If the guest will do a wolf howl at the end of the show for the wolf pack, if you got one in you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, man. That was awesome. that was one of the best ones yet. Well, great, man. I appreciate you coming on, and also everyone. Leon does do a show on Spreaker as well, and it's called The Work, right?
Yes, sir. It is. It comes on every 3rd Friday of every month. I know my first show I had Dave Considine on. My last show I had Keith Johnson on. If anyone doesn't know Keith Johnson, he's fantastic. He's a demonologist out of Rhode Island, and actually he was the first person, him and his twin brother Carl, they were the first people to the Conjuring case, the Harrisville, Rhode Island, that deals with a family called the Perrins. What you see in the movie is not exactly what happened. The Johnsons was there first, and then they called them the Warrens. So, and then my third show, which will be on the 15th of March, I'll have my dear friend Psychic Tina Marie. She is based out of Florida. Let me tell you, she is phenomenal. I really don't play too much into the psychic stuff, but she's one of those rarities. She is the real deal, and I'm so glad that I have her as my friend. And then my fourth guest, his name is Rick Atchestein. He is from Virginia. He has had an episode on a haunting called Marked for Evil, in which he got Dave Considine to help him on a case. Rick Atchestein is phenomenal. He has a really good passion for the demonic side of the paranormal, and in fact, he's not really doing a lot of regular paranormal cases anymore. He will investigate the demonic cases, and then from there get the church involved. So yeah, he's a really good guy.
Wow, I'm looking forward to hearing those shows. I really enjoyed the first two, and
yeah,
definitely learned a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Well, anyway, man, thank you so much for coming on, and yeah, I look forward to hopefully seeing you again in the future, and also just talking on Facebook and whatnot.
That's right. Thanks for having me. It has been an honor and a privilege. And if you ever want me on your show again, just give me a shout, my man.
Absolutely, man. I know there was a lot more we could have kept going, but
hey, it is what it is.
All right, man. Have a good night.
All right, you too, and God bless.
All right, God bless, man. All right, guys, that was Leon Wilkes, religious demonologist. What an awesome show! I know everyone was really into the topic and what all he was saying, but we got enough for another show, so we'll definitely have him on again. But yeah, he was awesome, great guy. I really enjoyed talking to him. He even gave me a blessed little medallion that I have on my necklace, and just a great guy, really great guy, and and he's learned from some of the best. And I can't wait to see what else he does. Definitely check out his show, The Work. I found it on his page. I think I even shared it on my page, and definitely learned a lot from that. It was awesome to listen to. So anyway, thank you guys for coming tonight. I have a doctor's appointment on Monday that should get me 100% on track with everything that I've been dealing with. So I'm very excited for that. I'm excited to get back to doing regular live streams and everything like that. Oh, another thing I need to tell you guys that I forgot. Next week and from then on, I will be moving this show till Thursday night. So I hope that's okay with everyone. But I was going to be moving to Thursday nights through March and through the rest. And I believe, yes, next week we have Jen from the She Squatchers coming on, and they're just awesome. There might be a couple of them from the She Squatchers on the show. It's going to be great. Definitely bring all your Bigfoot questions, especially involved like any Native American Bigfoot questions. They know a lot about that, and just have a lot of interesting methods and information. It's going to be awesome. So yes. So for any of the patrons, there is a sneak peek to something I've been working on there that I put up, I think yesterday or the day before. And yeah, I look forward to showing you guys some of the stuff I've been working on very soon. So thank you guys. Thanks for listening, and a huge thanks to Leon Wilkes for coming on and teaching us all about what he does. Very interesting stuff, very interesting subject. All right. I will see you guys very soon.